Hello everybody, Intuition here. Thank you as always for making time and space for us. Today we'd like to address a recent question that was posited, which in essence surrounds the idea of how do we move through pain and suffering to achieve enlightenment, which then therefore will allow us to transcend this earthly, worldly dimension in which feels suffocating and at times entrapping. And so, though that is a multifaceted question, it really builds upon one another. One answer builds upon the next answer. So we will start with enlightenment. Enlightenment, if you look at the definition of what enlightenment is, all enlightenment means is inside you are lightening up, literally, not necessarily metaphorically in the idea of light itself, right? It means lightening up, because inherently what makes humans more in this physicality, in this 3D dimension, is the idea that we are dense. Dense meaning that there are things that are making us heavy. And what makes us heavy is the culmination of triggers and traumas, emotional turmoil that we have allowed to build upon one another, that then therefore makes us very dense and does not allow us to be enlightened, inside light. And again, we do not mean light like light, it is the sun outside. We mean light meaning weight-wise. So, how you become enlightened, literally, truly, is as simple as you work through the triggers, the traumas, the issues, the PTSDs, whatever it is that has been systematically holding you back from being the authenticity of yourself, because you yourself, inherently humans, are not meant to be dense, dense, dense beings. What makes us dense is all of the crap that we are carrying around with us. So how you become enlightened is as simple as I start letting go of the belief systems, of the patternings, of the old behaviors that are holding me back from the substance of who I am. And when I fully let go of that, all of those hurts, all of that repressed trauma that is like a weight that I'm carrying around on my back, what happens is that I lighten up enough so that I can evolve. Because if you have a lifelong influence of trauma, that then therefore is informing all of your behaviors, which means that the lens in which you are seeing the world through is not through you and your lens, it is through the lens of the trauma in which you've experienced, which then therefore is informing each and every moment and each and every behavior and making you reactive instead of responsive. Then you are not you. You are your trauma. So when you let go of that, when you start moving back into those beautiful, essential pieces that you are, that has been muted because of the trauma that is informing you of everything that is happening in this moment, as opposed to you informing you of everything that is happening in this moment, when you're able to let go of that, you become enlightened, you become lighter, so that you can evolve, because then you become you, which means that now you can govern your life. You can move in whichever way that is most acceptable, most in correspondence with the pathway in which you are meant to move into. Not the pathway of trauma, but the pathway that is most in attunement with the reality that you are here to experience, that will allow you to remember all it is that you are. But you can't remember all it is that you are when you are holding on to everything that has happened to you and over-identifying everything that has happened to you as yourself. So, as I let go of all those things, all those behaviors, that lens in which I was seeing the world through, that was telling me that there is suffering, that I have experienced trauma, that I am a victim, whatever it is, whatever that reinforcing pattern is that then therefore allows you to see the world through trauma-informed focus, trauma-informed glasses. When I take those glasses off, I evolve because I become enlightened. If we were truly in correspondence with how light we actually are, meaning we are not carrying around that trauma, we would be able to move into pure energy and come back into embodiment whenever it is that we wanted. That is the next step in the evolution of human trajectory. The next step is you can take physical form if you so choose, because you know how to densify in such a way. But as soon as you no longer want to be in a physical form, you are able to change that physicality into pure energy and take that energetic body with you wherever it is that you'd like to go. That is the next step. But in order to be able to do that, you have to be able to let go of what it is that is not you, become enlightened enough in what it is that you are, so that you can move into that natural progression of everything that you've always been and are meant to be. So, twofold. What enlightenment is, as simple as moving through the density which is holding you down, which is those traumas, which is that trauma-informed lens in which many of us are walking around in. So, that is enlightenment. The same answer with regards to suffering. How we uplift ourselves out of suffering is as simple as looking at the lens in which we are viewing the world in. Because everything inherently right now is neutral. Everything, every experience is neutral, meaning that the only reason why I am perceiving something as not neutral is because I'm having a memory of the past come in and inform me of what it is that happened in the past that was similar to what it is that is happening now, which is then going to tell me if this is good or bad, if I'm safe or if I need to run. So then therefore, if I am experiencing suffering, then I must ask myself, what is this image that is happening now reminding me of in my past that then therefore would react in the corresponding that this is not good for me right now? Because as soon as I am saying, I am suffering, or there is suffering being experienced, no longer am I in the neutrality of this moment. I am judging it based off of a memory of the past. Because everything is inherently neutral. There is no such thing as good or bad. That is a value-based judgment based off of your experiences, based off of your lens of perception, based off of the societal understanding of what is good and what is bad. Because really, truly, honestly, inherently, everything is neutral. You have no idea what is good and what is bad because you yourself are not objective enough to be able to see the whole 360 picture of what it is that's actually unfolding. You just see the surface level of what it is that you think is going on based on a memory of the past that then therefore is informing you of the future, the now, and that is limiting. Because again, all you're seeing is a memory of the past and not the now. So how we move out of suffering is asking ourselves, what makes me believe that there is suffering occurring? Is it my understanding of the past that is getting in the way of this moment? Is me projecting my thought of what it is that other people are feeling into this moment? Because again, everything is truly inherently neutral. So, how we move out of suffering, how we become enlightened is again looking at the trauma that is informing us of the present that is getting in the way of us actually seeing what is truly happening in a neutral way that allows me to become responsive instead of reactive. Reactive is placing a value-based judgment on a new moment that is unfolding right before my eyes based on the history of my past. So, that is enlightenment. That is moving past suffering. How we transcend is another topic altogether, because evolution does not mean transcendence. Evolution just means that you're moving from one understanding of self to the other. Transcendence means that you are taking that whole complicit understanding and moving upward with it. So, how you transcend is as simple as understanding this concept. Everything in this third dimension is based in polarity. There's a positive charge and there's a negative charge. Again, when we say positive charge, we mean not in a value-based judgment. We mean it in a neutron or a proton, right? There's positive, there's negative, which means that there are two different poles, right? There's north, there's south, there's east, there's west, there's positive, there's negative, right? But when we have two different points, then that means that there's a line. And then therefore that means that there's a third point in that line. And that third point is the middle. That third point is balance. So it is understanding that you, like the poles, like the directions, north, east, south, west, you have two different poles of understanding yourself. You have the hyper-positive charge of understanding yourself, and you have the hyper-negative charge of understanding yourself. The hyper-positive charge is simply understanding what it means to be you. That is maybe the enlightened understanding of yourself. Enlightened meaning I've moved past all of the triggers and traumas that make me inherently dense, and then therefore I am enlightened. So then therefore I'm in the hyper-positive understanding of self, right? The hyper-negative charge might be I am so weighed down by my triggers, my traumas, my past, that I am so dense that I am in the negative charge of understanding myself. And again, as we said before, there is no such thing as good or bad. That is a value-based judgment. So if you are in the hyper-positive understanding of self, if you are completely enlightened, that is not better than being completely in the negative, completely dense. Because again, there is no such thing as good or bad. It is simply a different continuum of understanding yourself, and each are valid, depending on the individual and what is necessary for them to experience in this life. So then, therefore, you can understand yourself through the hyper-positive charge or the hyper-negative charge. But if you want to transcend, not evolve, transcend, then what is most important is to not go into the hyper-positive or the hyper-negative. It is to find balance between those two. And when I find that inherent balance between those two, when I'm able to have space for both the hyper-positive and the hyper-negative, when I'm able to come from things from a completely objective and neutral point of view, right in the middle, I immediately transcend, and no longer do I need to experience myself in the hyper-positive or the hyper-negative. I graduate to the next level of understanding. I'm able to transcend this experience and remember the truth, the authenticity that I am, again, not through the positive charge or just the negative charge, but through both of those charges, which then therefore will inform me how to move out of this place and space in which I feel is not within my preference. So, we understand that those are many different concepts thrown at you all at once. We could talk about this for hours and hours. We are trying to consolidate this understanding so that it is in bite-sized pieces and as simple as possible. We hope that this makes sense. If it does not, please let us know, and we'll be happy to move into it a little bit more in the areas in which there are gaps in understanding. However, it really all comes back to the matter of perception. How to evolve, how to transcend, how to move past suffering, how to attain peace is really changing that perception, changing those definitions, letting go of those old belief patterns, those old definitions that get in the way of you being in the now, in the present, and being able to maintain enough space for the hyper-positive and the hyper-negative so that I'm able to uplift myself, not just move from linearly from the negative to the positive, from the positive to the negative, but I'm able to go up as opposed to evolve back and forth like this. So, just a little food for thought. We hope that this answers questions. As always, thank you for making time and space for us. And we wish you well, understanding all of the multifaceted, dimensional aspects that you embody at all times, regardless of your understanding of self in the positive or the negative charge. Well wishes.